The city never slept. Silver towers rose high into the clouds, their glass walls glowing with cold blue light. Drones flew between them, carrying messages, scanning faces, and watching every shadow. On the ground, armored patrols walked the streets. These were not ordinary police. They were controlled by alien commanders who ruled the city from orbit. People lived in silence under their eyes, careful not to draw attention. One evening, the streets were crowded as workers hurried home. The air was heavy with neon signs and the hum of machines. Suddenly, the silence broke. A squad of armored officers appeared, their boots striking the metal road. They moved with precision, their masks hiding any emotion. From the crowd, one officer pointed at a man standing near a food stall. He was tall but plain, wearing simple gray clothes. Nothing about him stood out. He was not shouting. He was not fighting. He was only watching the street, as if waiting for something. "Seize him," the officer ordered. The crowd gasped. The man turned his head slowly, his face calm. Two officers rushed forward and grabbed his arms. He did not resist. His eyes scanned the people watching, but he said nothing. "Why are they arresting him?" someone whispered. "He did nothing," another voice said. The officers shoved the man into the middle of the squad. His hands were locked with glowing cuffs that sparked faint energy. Still, he walked without fear. The silence of his steps made the people more uneasy than if he had screamed. As they pushed him toward the armored vehicle, a child pulled at her mother's sleeve. "Why doesn't he fight back?" she asked. The mother only shook her head. Everyone had seen unfair arrests before, but this one felt different. There was something strange about the man's calmness, as if he knew something the rest of them did not. Inside the transport, the officers laughed. The hum of the vehicle filled the air as it rose above the street. "Another weak human," one officer said. "They always break when we question them," another added. "This one didn't even ask why," the first replied. The man sat quietly on the metal bench, his hands chained, his face expressionless. His eyes were sharp but not angry. They studied every corner of the vehicle, every flashing light, every weapon. One younger officer tried to look brave, leaned forward. "What's your name?" he demanded. The man did not answer. "Are you deaf?" the officer snapped. "Speak." Still, the man stayed silent. His stillness was unsettling. The officers began to shift uncomfortably. Silence was not what they expected. The commander of the squad frowned. "Check his ID," he ordered. The young officer pulled a scanning device from his belt and pressed it against the man's wrist. A thin blue beam scanned his skin. The screen flashed once, then went black. The officer frowned and tried again. This time, the device buzzed sharply and displayed a single word. "No record." "That can't be right," the commander said. "Try the facial system." Another officer tapped a panel on the wall. A red lens dropped from the ceiling and shined across the man's face. The screen blinked and again showed nothing. "Blank. Unknown. No file found," the system said in a cold mechanical voice. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. Every citizen in the city was registered at birth. Every face, every fingerprint, every breath was recorded in the alien system. It was impossible for someone to have no record. "Is he off-grid?" the young officer asked nervously. "Impossible," the commander snapped. "No one is off-grid." The man finally moved. Slowly, he lifted his head and looked directly at the commander. His eyes were calm, almost too calm. He spoke for the first time, his voice low but clear. "Your machines do not know me." The words froze the cabin. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the drone pilot above the vehicle hesitated. "What do you mean?" the commander asked. His voice was sharp, but beneath it was a trace of fear. The man only leaned back against the metal wall, closing his eyes as if the conversation bored him. The commander clenched his jaw. "He's playing with us. Run a deep scan." The officer hesitated. "Sir, deep scans are restricted. They're only used on." "Do it," the commander barked. The officer activated a larger scanner built into the vehicle's core. The machine roared to life, filling the cabin with white light. The beam passed over the man's body, mapping every cell, every bone, every hidden detail. The screen blinked. Then it glitched. Then it went black again. Sparks flickered from the machine. The officers cursed and pulled away as smoke rose from the wires. The commander slammed his fist against the wall. "What is he?" The young officer's face had gone pale. "Sir, it's not just that he has no record. The system, it refused him. It's like he doesn't exist." The man opened his eyes again, watching their panic with the faintest trace of smile. "You should not have touched me," he said softly. The vehicle shook as if the city outside had heard his words. The officers looked at each other, suddenly aware that this was no ordinary arrest. Something was wrong, very wrong. Outside the window, the night sky flickered. Strange lights danced in the clouds, as if something above had begun to stir. The man sat quietly, his chains glowing against his skin, his calmness more terrifying than any scream. And for the first time, the officers felt fear. The transport doors slid open with a sharp hiss. Cold air rushed inside as the officers pulled the man from his seat. The police station stood deep underground, carved from steel and stone. Fluorescent lights flickered on the ceiling, and the walls hummed with hidden machines. This was where the alien-controlled police kept their darkest secrets. The squad pushed the man down a long corridor. His hands were still locked with glowing cuffs, but he walked without resistance. Guards along the hall glanced at him, whispering. It was not unusual for suspects to be dragged here, but it was unusual for someone to be so calm. They entered a room with metal walls and a single chair fixed to the floor. A heavy table stood in the center. Cameras blinked in every corner, red eyes that never blinked. "Sit him down," the commander ordered. The officers forced the man into the chair. The cuffs tightened, locking his wrists to the steel arms. He did not struggle. He simply looked around the room, his expression unreadable. The commander leaned forward. His voice was sharp. "Who are you?" The man stayed silent. "Answer me." Still nothing. His eyes remained fixed on the glowing lights above. The commander slammed his fist on the table. "Do you think this is a game? You have no record, no name, no past. No one in this city is unregistered. So tell me, how do you exist?" The man finally looked at him. His calm voice sent chills across the room. "Your machines cannot see me because I was never yours to see." The younger officer, still shaken from the transport ride, shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, maybe he's an escaped experiment. The system sometimes blocks restricted files." The commander hesitated. It was possible. The aliens often tested humans, experiments whispered about in the city streets. But there was something about this man that felt different. "Run a DNA scan," the commander ordered. 2 officers brought in a device and pressed it against the man's neck. A green light scanned his blood, then fed the data into the system. The machine beeped once, then flashed red. "Error. No match." The officers exchanged worried glances. "Impossible," one muttered. "Every human DNA is stored, even the dead." The commander's jaw tightened. "Run a second test. Use the analyzer." They wheeled in a larger machine. Wires stretched out, attaching to the man's arms. The device hummed, and the screen lit up. Strange symbols flashed across it, not the normal code, but something the officers had never seen. Then the screen went black. Sparks jumped from the cables. The analyzer shut down. "Another failure," an officer whispered. The commander turned to the man, his face hard. "What are you?" The man leaned forward slightly. His eyes caught the light, glimmering like steel. "You don't want that answer." The room grew colder. Even the humming of the walls seemed to fade. The commander forced a laugh, trying to hide his unease. "You think silence protects you? It doesn't. We have ways of breaking men." He gestured to the guards. One pressed a button, and the cuff sent a surge of electricity through the man's arms. His body tensed, but he did not scream. He did not even move. The young officer stepped back in shock. He didn't feel it. "Turn it higher," the commander ordered. The guard obeyed. Sparks leapt from the cuffs. The smell of burning filled the air. Yet the man sat calmly, his eyes locked on the commander. Finally, he spoke again. "You will regret this." The lights above flickered. The camera sparked. For a moment, the entire room plunged into darkness. When the lights returned, the man was still sitting there, unharmed, though the cuffs smoked around his wrists. The officers froze. None dared touch him again. The commander's voice cracked with frustration. Bring the lie detector. A sleek device was rolled in. Straps were fixed across the man's chest, measuring every heartbeat. The commander leaned close. Do you work for the rebels? No. The device blinked green. Truth. Are you a spy? No. Again, the device blinked green. Are you human? The man's eyes darkened. His lips curved into the faintest smile. Yes. The machine screeched. Alarms blared. Error. Error. The system refused the answer. The guard stepped back in fear. One whispered, the system, it doesn't believe him. The commander's hands trembled, though he tried to hide it. What are you? For a long moment, the man did not answer. The room was silent except for the faint crackle of the broken machine. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle. You are asking the wrong question. You should ask not who I am, but why I am here. The officers exchanged nervous glances. Why are you here? The commander demanded. The man leaned back in a chair, chains still glowing. His words were quiet, but each one carried weight. Because your masters fear the return of what was lost, and I am the first sign of it. The commander's face paled. What does that mean? Before the man could answer, alarms erupted through the station. Sirens wailed. Red lights flashed. The walls shook as if something massive was moving outside. The guards panicked, checking their monitors. Strange signals filled the screens, waves of energy no one had seen before. The commander's voice broke. What did you do? The man only closed his eyes, as if resting. A faint glow appeared under his skin, the same mark they had seen before. I told you, he whispered. You should not have touched me. The room filled with silence. Not even the machines dared to make a sound. And in that silence, every officer felt the same thing, fear. The sirens screamed through the station, echoing down the steel corridors. Red lights pulsed across the walls, painting everything in a harsh glow. Officers shouted into their comms, their voices filled with panic. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Inside the interrogation room, the man sat quietly, still chained to the metal chair. The alarms did not disturb him. His face remained calm, as if he had been waiting for this moment. The commander slammed his hand on the table. What signal did you send? Tell me now. The man lifted his head. His eyes glowed faintly in the red light. It was not me who sent the call. I am only the answer. The younger officer's hands shook as he checked the monitors. Sir, the sensors are picking up energy waves outside the city. They're responding to him. The commander froze. Responding? To him. The officer nodded. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's like they've been waiting. The man gave a small, knowing smile. Finally, you begin to understand. The guards in the room stepped back. Their weapons trembled in their hands. None dared to fire. The air itself felt heavier, like a storm building inside the walls. The commander tried to regain control. You are no one. You have no name, no record. You are nothing. The man's voice was soft but cut through the noise like a blade. Nothing does not shake your machines. Nothing does not call across the sky. I am not nothing. I am what your masters hoped would never return. The words sent a chill through the room. One of the older officers whispered, almost to himself, the mark, the glow on his arm. I've seen it before. The commander turned sharply. What are you talking about? The older officer's face was pale. It was in the archives, old files from before the occupation. Stories of humans who were not like us. Stronger, faster, leaders in the ancient wars. They called them sentinels. The younger officer's eyes widened. Sentinels? That's just a myth. The older officer shook his head. The aliens erased the records. They said it was dangerous knowledge. But I saw enough. The mark is the same. If he truly is a sentinel. The commander cut him off. Enough. Myths do not walk into my station. He turned to the man, pointing a finger at him. You are a liar. The man tilted his head, his calm gaze never leaving the commander. Then why do your hands tremble? The commander's fist clenched. He wanted to deny it, but it was true. His hand shook against the table. Before he could speak again, the walls of the station trembled. A deep rumble shook the floor, knocking dust from the ceiling. The red lights flickered. The young officer checked the feed. His voice cracked. Sir, something just entered the atmosphere. It's not alien. It's not ours. It's unknown. The commander's face went pale. How many ships? One, the officer whispered. But it's massive. The guards panicked. Some ran to secure the doors. Others shouted orders into their comms. The station had faced rebel attacks before, but never anything like this. The man in the chair leaned forward slightly. His voice was calm, almost gentle. They have come because you touched me. You woke what should have remained hidden. The commander slammed his hand on the table again, his fear breaking into anger. Who are they? The man smiled faintly. You will see soon enough. The lights above flickered again, and for a brief moment, the glowing mark on his arm shined brighter. The pattern was complex, like lines of fire running under his skin. The young officer's breath caught. That's not a tattoo. That's alive. The older officer whispered. The legend said the Sentinels carried the code of war inside them, a weapon written in their blood. The commander turned on him. Silence, but his own voice wavered. The man's chains rattled as he shifted slightly in the chair. Metal groaned as if the cuffs were under strain. You thought me weak. You thought me ordinary. But now you see the truth. A loud explosion echoed from above. The room shook violently. Dust and sparks fell from the ceiling. The lights went black for several seconds. When they came back, the mark on his arm was blazing with light. The guards raised their weapons in panic. Don't move, one shouted. The man only looked at them, calm as ever. You cannot stop what is already here. The commander forced himself to step closer, though his heart pounded in his chest. If you're what they say, if you're a sentinel, then why return now? Why reveal yourself? The man's gaze locked on him. His voice was low, but it carried weight. Because your masters forgot the old wars. They thought humanity was broken. They thought we were gone, but they were wrong. I am the first, and I am not alone. Silence fell over the room. The officers looked at one another, their faces pale. None of them dared to speak. Then the alarms changed. The deep wail of warning was replaced by a single sound, an arrival alert. Something had landed. The commander's comm crackled. A terrified voice came through. Sir, a craft just touched down outside the station. It's not alien. It's not ours. And, sir, beings are coming out. The line went dead. The man leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes as if resting. The mark on his arm still glowed like fire beneath his skin. They are here, he whispered. The officers stood frozen, their weapons shaking in their hands. For the first time in their lives, they did not know if they were the hunters or the prey. The ground shook as if the city itself had a heartbeat. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sirens wailed louder, their echo reaching every corner of the underground station. Officers scrambled through the halls, shouting orders no one could follow. Inside the interrogation room, the man sat still, chains glowing faintly against his wrists. He had not moved, yet his presence filled the room like a storm. The commander barked at his squad. Report. What is happening outside? The young officer's hands trembled as he stared at the feed. His voice cracked. Sir, a ship has landed. But it's not alien. It's something else. I've never seen anything like it. The screen showed the surface above the city. A massive craft rested on the steel road outside the station. It was dark, angular, and covered in strange markings that pulsed with faint blue light. Its surface seemed alive, shifting like liquid metal. The older officer gasped. That's not a rebel ship. That's human design, but far beyond anything we have now. The commander snapped. Impossible. Humans cannot build that. The man in the chair opened his eyes. His calm voice filled the silence. You are correct. Ordinary humans cannot. But my kind can. The officers turned toward him in fear. Outside, the ship's hull opened slowly. A ramp lowered to the ground with a hiss of steam. Figures began to step out. The young officer whispered, "By the stars." They were tall, armored in suits of black and silver. Their faces were hidden behind visors glowing faint blue. Their movements were precise, controlled. Each carried weapons unlike anything the aliens had shown. Their armor bore the same glowing mark as the one burning on the prisoner's arm. They're humans, the older officer said, voice shaking. But not like us. The commander's face turned pale. He slammed his fist on the table. "Seal the station. Lock every entrance." Guards rushed to obey, but the screen showed the armored humans moving without fear. Doors slammed shut. Barriers rose. Still, the intruders walked forward calmly, their weapons lowered, as if no wall could stop them. Inside the interrogation room, the man leaned forward, chains rattling softly. "You tried to contain me, but now the others have come. Do you understand what this means?" The commander shouted at him. "Tell me who they are." The man's faint smile returned. "They are my people." The younger officer's knees shook. Then you are a sentinel," the older officer whispered, finishing the sentence. The commander pointed at the glowing mark on the prisoner's arm. "If you are what you say, then why let us take you so easily?" The man's eyes darkened. "Because you needed to see. Your masters needed to be afraid again. And nothing creates fear like the truth." Another explosion thundered through the station. The lights flickered. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The screens went black one by one. The young officer screamed, "They've breached the outer wall." The commander drew his weapon, though his hand shook. "If they come here, we kill him first." He pointed the gun at the chainman's head. The man did not flinch. He stared at the commander with eyes that felt heavier than stone. "If you kill me, you will not survive the hour." The doors of the interrogation room shuddered. Dust rained from above as heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor outside. The armored figures were drawing near. The guards raised their rifles, pointing them at the door. Their breathing was fast, their nerves broken. The man in the chair spoke again, his voice calm in the chaos. "You think you hold power here, but when that door opens, you will see who truly commands this world." The commander shouted to his men, "Stand ready." His voice cracked. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. For a moment, silence pressed against the walls like a weight. Then the steel door bent inward with a deep groan. A glowing hand punched through, tearing the metal as if it were paper. Sparks flew. The guards fired, bullets bouncing off the thick armor of the intruders. The door crashed down. Two armored sentinels stepped inside, weapons raised. Blue light glowed across their suits, matching the mark on the prisoner's arm. The guards froze, unable to fire again. Their weapons shook uselessly in their hands. The commander pointed his pistol at the chainman, shouting, "Stay back, or he dies." The sentinels stopped. Their visors turned toward him. For a moment, the room was filled only with the sound of alarms and the commander's heavy breathing. Then, one of the armored figures spoke. His voice was deep, metallic, echoing through the helmet. "You cannot kill him. He is one of us." The commander's hand trembled. He pressed the gun harder against the prisoner's head. "He's my prisoner." The chained man finally stood. The cuffs sparked, then shattered as if broken by an unseen force. He rose to his full height, his presence filling the room with power. He looked at the commander calmly. "I was never your prisoner." The pistol shook in the commander's hand. He stumbled back, pale with fear. The sentinels stepped forward, forming a line behind their leader. The glow of their armor filled the room, drowning out the weak red lights. The man turned to the officers, his chains lying broken on the floor. His voice was steady. "You asked who I am. Now you know. I am Sentinel, the first of many." The officers stood frozen, speechless. Outside, the city shook again as the rest of the mysterious craft came alive, lights blazing across its surface. The war for truth had just begun. The chamber was filled with glowing blue light. The air vibrated as if charged with electricity. Sparks danced along the walls where the metal had bent under the intruding sentinel strength. The police officers stood frozen, their weapons useless in their shaking hands. The man, no, the sentinel, stood tall at the center, his broken chains on the floor. He looked over the officers, his calm eyes scanning each terrified face. "You thought you were in control," he said softly. "But you only controlled what you could see. You never understood what you were dealing with." The commander tried to steady his trembling voice. "What are you? What do you want?" The sentinel's glowing mark pulsed brighter. He took a single step forward, and the floor trembled beneath him. Machines around the room flickered and sparked. Monitors exploded with static. The young officer stumbled backward. He He's manipulating the station itself. The older officer's mouth fell open. This is impossible. No human should have this power. The sentinel looked at him and smiled faintly. I'm not like your kind anymore. I carry the strength of the sentinels, the knowledge and power of a species your masters thought was extinct. And now I am awake. He raised his hand slowly. The glowing mark on his arm extended like tendrils of light, weaving into the air around him. The room filled with a low hum, resonating deep inside everyone's chest. The officers felt their knees weaken, their hearts racing. The commander gritted his teeth. I will stop you. He fired his weapon, but the bullets bounced harmlessly off an invisible barrier. Sparks flew from the gun, burning the grip. He stared in disbelief. What is this? The sentinel's voice was calm, almost gentle, but each word carried power. This is what happens when you disturb what should remain hidden. This is the gift of the sentinels. Suddenly, the lights in the station went out. For a moment, everything was black. Then a soft blue glow spread from the sentinel's mark, illuminating the room. Machines powered down, doors unlocked, and swung open on their own. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with his energy. The young officer whispered, He's controlling everything, even the station. One of the armored sentinels behind him stepped forward, holding a device unlike any weapon the police had seen. It projected a holographic map above the table, showing the city, the streets, and the alien-controlled zones. Streams of energy connected to the sentinel in the room. The commander's face turned pale. He's linking to all of it. Yes, the sentinel said. I can reach anywhere humans once ruled. The city, the machines, the sky above, it all responds to the power within me. The officers realized that they had never faced a human before. Not one like this. Their own weapons, their technology, their authority, it meant nothing here. The sentinel moved closer to the commander. The floor trembled with every step. I'm the first of many. My people have returned. The world will remember what humans can truly be. The commander tried to shout orders, but his voice was weak. You can't do this. You are just one man. The sentinel stopped a few feet away. He bent slightly, and the glowing mark on his arm flared. The entire room seemed to warp, machines bending, lights dancing like fire. One man is all it takes to awaken a rest. Power is not in numbers, it is in understanding. And I understand. The young officer looked around in panic. They're going to destroy us. Or enslave us. The older officer shook his head. No, they're not here to destroy. They're here to remind, to reclaim. The sentinel doesn't wish harm to ordinary humans. Only the rulers who fear us. The commander's hands shook, dropping his pistol. I was supposed to control him. I was supposed to. You controlled nothing. The sentinel interrupted softly. You only witnessed what you could not control. Your fear was always visible. And now, you see the truth. The glowing mark on his arm shot out a wave of light. The walls hummed, and panels on the ceiling opened to release small drones that flew around, forming a protective shield. Sparks rained around the room, but none touched the sentinel. The officer stepped back, realizing they could not approach him. The younger officer whispered, We can't fight him. Not with anything we have. The sentinel's voice rang clear, filling every corner. You have nothing to fear if you do not harm my people. But know this, if your masters try to rise against us, they will see power they cannot imagine. I am the first, and the rest are coming. A loud boom shook the building. From outside, the alien warships hovered uncertainly, their systems disrupted by the sentinel's energy. Red alarms flashed across their panels, as if the sky itself had turned against them. The commander fell to his knees. What are we going to do? The sentinel looked at him one last time, calm and unyielding. Survive and remember this day, the day humanity returned. The officers remained frozen, speechless. The room was filled with a quiet hum, the glow of the sentinel's mark lighting up the dark station. Outside, the city trembled under the arrival of a new power, one long thought extinct. And the world would never be the same again. The room was silent. The glowing blue light from the Sentinel's mark filled every corner of the underground station. The officers stood frozen, their weapons useless in their trembling hands. Sparks crackled from damaged panels around them, but the Sentinel remained calm, radiating power. Outside, the city shook. Alien warships hovered above, their lights flickering as their systems struggled against the Sentinel's energy. Drones fell from the sky, machines jammed, and the streets below were bathed in an eerie blue glow. The commander dropped to his knees. His voice shook. What is he?" The young officer whispered. "He's not just human. He's a legend." The older officer's face went pale. "Sentinel, the first of the Sentinels." The stories were true. The Sentinel walked slowly through the room. Each step made the floor tremble. He stopped in front of the commander, his chains long destroyed, his mark glowing brighter than ever. "You thought you could control me," he said softly. "You thought humans were weak. You were wrong." The commander's hand shook. Why are you here?" The Sentinel's eyes glowed with quiet intensity. "Because your masters forgot the past. They thought humanity was gone. They thought our kind would never rise again. But they were wrong." The younger officer gulped. "Then what will happen now?" The Sentinel looked toward the ceiling, as if sensing something far above. "They will remember. The aliens, your rulers, and anyone who dares to suppress us. Humanity is not what it was. We are stronger, faster, smarter, and we have returned." Outside, the alien ships tried to regain control. Beams of light shot down from orbit, but the Sentinel's energy shield flared, reflecting their attacks harmlessly into the sky. The officers watched, speechless, as the battle above was fought without a single human hand moving. The Sentinel turned back to the room. "I do not wish to destroy those who mean no harm, but those who seek to control or harm my people will face a power they cannot imagine." The commander's jaw went slack. "Your people, they're still out there?" "Yes," the Sentinel said, "and they will come. One by one, they will awaken. The city, the world, the stars, they will all remember what humans truly are." The officers looked at one another. Fear mixed with awe. They had never seen anything like this. Their technology, their authority, everything they trusted, it was nothing against the Sentinel. The young officer whispered, We are witnessing history." The older officer nodded slowly. "And we are powerless to stop it." The Sentinel lifted his arm, and mark shone so brightly that the room felt like daylight. The broken drones and sparking machines lifted slightly, as if drawn to his energy. The air vibrated with his presence, and every officer felt a strange warmth and fear at the same time. The commander swallowed hard. "So what now? What will you do with us?" The Sentinel's eyes softened slightly. "You will live, but you will never forget this day. You will tell others what you have seen. The world must know that we are back, that humanity has not been defeated, that we are still here and stronger than ever." The young officer let out a shaky breath. We understand. We will survive and remember." The older officer whispered, "We will never underestimate humans again." The Sentinel turned toward the shattered door. His armored allies stood behind him, their presence silent but commanding. They moved as one, ready to reclaim the world that had been taken from them so long ago. The officers watched as the Sentinel and his people walked toward the surface. The red alarm lights flickered and went out. The hum of machines died down, leaving only the faint blue glow of the Sentinel's mark fading into the distance. The commander sank to the floor. His hands covered his face. We have just witnessed the impossible." The young officer nodded. "Yes, and we are lucky to be alive." The older officer stood silently, staring at the sky above the station. The stories were true. The Sentinels are real, and they will not be ignored again. The city outside was calm now, but everyone knew the truth had changed everything. Humanity had returned, stronger and wiser. The alien overlords above hesitated, unsure how to respond to a power they had long feared. The Sentinel's voice echoed faintly in their minds, as if carried by the wind itself. "Remember, the future belongs to those who awaken." And then silence. The officers remained frozen, staring at the empty room where the sentinel had stood moments before. Their hearts pounded. Their minds raced. One thought lingered above all else. The world had changed, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop what was coming.